The fourth property of money, how crypto invented the medium of yield. Section 1, Introduction, the breaking of the monetary trinity. For over 5 millennia, the architecture of money remained constant. Economists, bankers, and philosophers all agreed that money served three core purposes. It acted as a medium of exchange to move value, a store of value to preserve it, and a unit of account to measure it. This trinity defined every monetary system ever built, from gold and silver coins to fiat currencies and digital payment rails. But something unprecedented happened in the past decade. A new property emerged, not by decree, but through engineering. Crypto, by design, began doing what traditional money could not. It started to produce. It learned to generate additional value. This shift marks a historic break in the monetary order. The once static concept of money, inert, transactional, and dependent on external credit systems, is now becoming productive capital in its own right. The result is a fourth property of money, the medium of yield, abbreviated MOY, the ability of money or money-like assets to self-generate additional value. Section 2, the birth of the fourth property, the medium of yield. The medium of yield represents a fundamental evolution in the function of money. It describes an asset's capacity to accrue returns within its own system, rather than through external lending, debt, or speculation. In traditional finance, yield is a derivative phenomenon, an outcome of credit intermediation or productive investment. In crypto, yield can emerge endogenously from participation in the system itself. In proof-of-stake networks, yield arises from securing the protocol. In decentralized finance, liquidity providers earn from market making or transaction fees. In structured Bitcoin vehicles, such as MicroStrategy's preferred stocks, yield is engineered through composition, turning Bitcoin's stored energy into distributable income. The medium of yield is therefore not about interest. It is about intrinsic productivity. It reframes money from a passive store of value into an active, compounding entity. Section 3. Case study, Bitcoin's proof-of-work yield. MicroStrategy's transformation since 2020 offers a clear case study of how Bitcoin, a non-yielding proof-of-work asset, can be financialized into a yield-bearing structure. The company's strategy is simple but radical. First, it raises capital from investors through convertible debt or preferred shares. Second, it converts that capital into Bitcoin, digital capital. Third, it distributes yield to investors through structured instruments, digital income. The result is a new form of value-added intermediation. Institutions that cannot hold Bitcoin directly due to compliance, custody, or governance constraints gain exposure to Bitcoin's upside through yield-bearing securities. These preferred stock lines, STF, STRD, and STRC, offer fixed dividends between 8 and 10%, backed by the performance of Bitcoin as collateral capital. This model does not rely on credit creation or inflationary leverage. It is pure proof-of-work yield, income derived from Bitcoin's monetary energy itself. It also nullifies Warren Buffett's most famous critique. He once called Bitcoin a pet rock that does nothing. Yet, through financial composition, that same rock now does something impossible. It yields. Section 4. From digital capital to digital income, the architecture of the medium of yield. The medium of yield did not appear overnight. It emerged through successive layers of innovation. Layer 1, Bitcoin, represents digital capital, the store of value, layer built on hard money and proof-of-work security. Layer 2, Ethereum, represents digital productivity, the execution and computation layer for smart contracts and staking. Layer 3, decentralized finance, represents digital liquidity, the coordination layer of capital through automated market makers, lending markets, and decentralized exchanges. Layer 4, the medium of yield, represents digital income, the accrual and compounding layer that includes staking yield, Bitcoin preferreds, and tokenized treasuries. Each layer added new functionality, from preservation to productivity to liquidity and now to growth. With the medium of yield, money achieves a closed-loop economy. It can move, store, measure, and now multiply itself. Section 5. The philosophical and economic implications. The implications of the medium of yield are profound. If money can now generate its own yield, the dependency on central banks, debt issuance, and fiat inflation weakens. Value creation shifts from credit expansion to protocol participation. This marks a new stage in monetary evolution, from extraction-based economies to accrual-based economies, where wealth is created by contributing to digital systems, not by exploiting scarcity. The medium of yield introduces a counterbalance to inflation. Instead of money losing purchasing power over time, programmable assets can now self-compensate by generating yield from within their own networks. In essence, yield becomes monetary anti-entropy. This content is brought to you by Bobby Giggs. Promote your brand here and reach a wide audience across platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow the links in the description to get started. Section 6. The institutional angle, the medium of yield versus sovereign yield. From a capital allocation perspective, the rise of the medium of yield represents a structural challenge to the sovereign bond market. When Bitcoin-based preferreds pay 8 to 10%, while United States Treasuries yield 4%, European bonds 2%, and Japanese bonds 0.5%, the risk-reward landscape shifts dramatically. For pensions, insurers, and sovereign wealth funds, the world's largest pools of passive capital, medium of yield instruments resemble digital social security. They provide predictable income, denominated in assets that appreciate over time, not depreciate. As these instruments scale globally, they will compete directly with government debt as the world's default income product. The question is no longer whether Bitcoin will replace fiat, but whether the medium of yield will replace bonds. Section 7. The narrative shift, from does nothing to does the impossible. Buffett's worldview was built on the premise that productive value comes only from businesses, entities that do something. Bitcoin violated that logic by being pure store of value, devoid of cash flow. But the new financial layer around it rewrites the script. Bitcoin is no longer inert. It has become the collateral base for a new financial system that produces digital income without traditional intermediation. The so-called pet rock has become a productive asset, a self-generating store of value. The narrative has flipped. Money no longer waits to be lent out to earn. It accrues by existing within the system. Section 8. Conclusion. The age of the medium of yield. The trinity of money has become a quartet: exchange, storage, measurement, and now growth. Crypto has given birth to the fourth property of money, the medium of yield. And in doing so, it has redefined the nature of capital itself. In this new era, yield is not a privilege granted by banks or governments. It is a native function of programmable money. The medium of yield paradigm will govern how value is generated, distributed, and sustained in digital economies. The old world asked whether Bitcoin could replace currency. The new world has moved on. It is building a financial organism where money grows itself. And when history looks back, it will mark this as the moment money learned to work.